Greetings everyone. Today we'll start the chapter Absorption by Roots and the processes involved. It's the first chapter of the unit Plant Physiology. Well, plant physiology deals with everything or all the life processes related to a plant. The metabolic activities that a plant does, the functioning of its cells, its tissues, various organs, how all of that comes together and results into the growth and development of a plant. So the first process that we will learn in plant physiology is how the roots absorb water and minerals. In this chapter, in your syllabus, we have the various processes that help us in, or rather helps the roots to absorb the water, that is imbibition, diffusion, osmosis, osmotic pressure, root pressure, turgidity and flaccidity, plasmolysis and deplasmolysis. Also, we learn about active and passive transport and what actually happens when the water rises through the xylem, because we know that the water in the xylem, it moves against the force of gravity. So how that takes place, that we will be learning in this chapter. So let us start. Absorption of roots. We know that roots, along with its many other important functions, one of the vital functions is that it absorbs water and mineral nutrients from the soil for the plant. Now, there is a topic, need of water and minerals for plants. It's one of the important topics for your exams, that why root does what it does, like why does it absorb water and mineral nutrients? Because plants need it. Now, why do they need it? We have learned these processes in our junior classes like photosynthesis, transpiration and transportation. I'm not going into details about these three processes. We already know this. I'm coming to the fourth point, that is mechanical stiffness. Now, we don't always see the leaves or the flowers of the plants drooping down. So that means they are not, yes, sometimes they do look drooped down, but not all the time. Why? Water has a huge role to play in that. Water provides the necessary turgidity, or rather the distended condition that we see in the leaves and the flowers, that is provided by the water. That is needed for the stiffness of the plant tissues. So that's why water is needed by the plants. Also, minerals are needed because the cell organelles, if we break down the minerals, what are they? They are basically various elements, salts of like nitrates, phosphates, sulfates, and some simple ions like potassium, calcium, magnesium. So these potassium, calcium, magnesium, chlorine, they are nothing but constituents of cell membranes or cell organelles. That's why they are needed. And to constitute and to synthesize a variety of enzymes needed by the plant, these minerals are needed. So please understand this portion and then memorize this, because this is one of the portions from where you are going to get questions from. Next, let us come to that how is root able to do what it does? That is, what characteristics of roots help it in absorbing water? Now, the first thing that has been told is that surface area of roots is enormous. Look at this picture. This diagrammatic representation tells us that even if it's a tiny seedling, the expanse or the area that the root covers is huge. This is a diagram. Let me bring you to a real picture. Now, look at this. This is not even a seedling. It's just the radicle and plumule have just started coming out from the seed. In this case also, look, the rootlets and the root hairs, how much space they have taken up. That means if they have taken this much of space, it means that they can draw water from all this area. So this tiny seed which has only this much of the radicle, due to this rootlets and root hairs, it is able to absorb water from this entire space. So that's one of the important features of roots, that the rootlets, they cover a lot of area. It's even wonderful to say that there is a plant, balsam, it's a garden plant, that if you carefully keep each of its rootlets, one after the other, it will be covering a length of many kilometers. So they take up a huge space. That's one of the reasons. Second is, root hairs contain cell sap of a higher concentration than the surrounding water. Now, before I explain this point, just understand this, that root hairs are nothing but extensions of the epidermal cells of the root. They are just the extension. They are not a different cell. They are just an extension. That cell has extended a little bit. Okay? So, as every cell contains cell sap, that portion also contains cell sap. And there are salts dissolved in it. Now just imagine how small a root hair is and how little cell sap it will contain. But it is containing salts dissolved in it. And now think about the surrounding area, the soil, huge area, lot of water, and think about the salt dissolved in it. Now, if in a small area or in a small space, a lot of salt is dissolved, and if in a large area, a lot of salt is dissolved, then the concentration of the small space where salt is dissolved will be more. I will be explaining this later again in osmosis and other processes also. So, this tells us that the concentration inside the root hair is more than that of the surrounding water. Concentration of what? Concentration of the cell sap. This is a very important feature. Due to this, the water moves in. Due to this, the water moves in. See, the part that we were talking about, that root hair is nothing but an extension of the epidermal cell. See, it's not a separate cell, it's just an extension. Okay. Next, let us come to the third point, that is, root hairs have thin walls. Like all plant cells, root hairs also have two outer layers, a cell wall and a cell membrane. Now, we know that the cell wall is permeable. It allows the movement of water molecules. Now, the cell membrane in root hair is very thin and semi-permeable. Semi-permeable means it doesn't allow everything to enter, but it allows water molecules to pass through. But obviously not the larger molecules of the dissolved salts. Okay, that's one of the secrets of how water is absorbed from the soil by the roots. Also, the cell membrane is very thin. It's really thin. That's why almost one cell membrane thin. That's why the water molecules can move across. Okay, so now this is also an important topic, this characteristics of roots for absorbing water. You're going to have questions from this. Now, what kind of questions? Look at this progress check. The first three are easy. Look at the fourth one. List 3 main characteristics of roots that enable them to draw water from the soil. Now, it's basically the 3 points that we have learned right now, but it's very what do we call it, nicely worded or simply worded question. In your year ICSE, the question might come like that, how the enormous surface area of root helps it to absorb water, or how root hair containing cell sap may help it to absorb water. In that case, you have to mention the entire thing that I just explained here. Okay, so read this, understand this thoroughly. Okay, now we come to the various processes of absorption and conduction of water and minerals. There are 5 main phenomena which help the root to absorb water and minerals: imbibition, diffusion, osmosis, active transport, and turgidity and flaccidity. Let me tell you one thing. It's not that at 10 o'clock imbibition is helping the root to absorb water and at 12 o'clock active transport is helping. Then at 11 osmosis will help, and at night it will diffusion and turgidity and flaccidity will take care of it. It's not like that. All these processes here, they are explained separately for your better understanding, but all these processes, they work together so that the roots can absorb water. Here I will be explaining it separately, as each process has their own importance, but they all work together in helping the roots to absorb. So let us come to the first process, that is imbibition. It is a phenomenon by which the living or dead plant cells absorb water by surface attraction. Now, when you are writing this definition, the key term should be living or dead plant cells. You have to mention that it is done by plant cells which are living as well as dead. And surface attraction. This is also a very important word here. Now, the best example for this will be raisins. You keep raisins in a bowl of water. The next day, you see them, inflated. You keep almonds, you keep any kind of nut, you see that they have kind of swollen up. This also happens during rainy season. You will find that it becomes a little difficult to close the doors and windows because the wood swells up by absorbing moisture. All these examples that I mentioned, they are nothing but displaying imbibition. So substances which are made up of cellulose or proteins are hydrophilic. Okay. Now the cell membrane, as we have learned it in previous class, that the cell membrane is a lipoprotein. So and the cell wall is made of cellulose. So and at times there are other proteins also involved. So in that case, they are hydrophilic. That means they have a strong affinity for water. They like water. So whenever they get moisture or water around them, they imbibe it or they take it in. What will happen then? There will be space inside them that will be occupied by the water, resulting into swelling up. So the dry seeds, wooden doors, all of them, they swell up due to this process, imbibition. So and a very important example in plant world is that the seed coat, it ruptures in case of germinating seeds due to this imbibitional pressure. And it is a very important force when we are talking about ascent of sap. When the sap reaches from the lower level to the higher level, imbibition has a huge role to play in it. That's imbibition is all about. Next, let us come to diffusion. Now, diffusion is the free movement of molecules of a substance. It can be a solute, It can be a solvent, it can be gas, it can be liquid. From the region of their higher concentration to the region of their lower concentration, when the two are in a direct contact. Everything here is important. This is a very good definition. Now the key points, let me tell you. You have to mention free movement. In bracket, the solute, solvent, gas, liquid, that is molecules of a substance. This is important. From the region of higher to lower concentration, that is important. And when the two are in direct contact, that means diffusion will always take place when there is no barrier in between the two regions. Okay, from one region to another region, diffusion will take place when there is no barrier. When we come to osmosis, I will make you see the difference. So this direct contact is also very important. The best example is when teachers, when we come into the class, the second bench, the first benchers first feel that, then the second benchers, and sometimes the last benchers also. Don't you get a whiff of the perfume that we apply? So that is an example of diffusion. The perfume that I have applied or any other teacher applies, that molecules are present on my dress or my skin more than they are present in the environment. Okay, so suppose I take a bottle of perfume or a deo in the class and I spray it. Near the nozzle of the bottle, the concentration of the molecules will be way more than the last window of the classroom. So this, but after a certain time, after a few seconds or few minutes, the person sitting near the last window will start getting the smell of the perfume. That happens due to diffusion, because the molecules which were gathered near the nozzle of the spray bottle now move from their higher concentration, that is near the nozzle, to their lower concentration, that is the end of the classroom. Okay, and now the last person sitting in the classroom and the perfume bottle, you will say that how are they in direct contact? The last person is not touching the bottle. They are in direct contact because they share the same atmosphere. They share the same surrounding. There is air in between them as a medium. So as long as there is a medium, as long as there is no wall in between them, it can move. The molecules can move. Okay. Here an experiment is mentioned that place a sugar cube or a small tablet of soluble dye, potassium permanganate, in a beaker. You will find that one corner of the beaker is colored when you put the potassium permanganate or a dye, and later on, if you don't stir it, keep it like that, after some time you will find that the entire water in the beaker or whichever liquid you have used gets colored, because the molecules move from this place which is of higher concentration to everywhere where they are not present, that is their lower concentration. Okay, so this is what diffusion is. You can do it at your home as well. Take a glass of water, put some of your liquid eyeliner or turmeric or any kind of colored substance that you have. You will see that it will transfer or it will change the color of the water in the glass. Okay, so that's what diffusion is all about. Now there are some important points about diffusion that we should know. In this case, we will learn how diffusion has actually taken place. The molecules of the dye that you have used are more crowded, or rather more concentrated, in and near the tablet of the dye, or where you have put your colored substance. These molecules move away farther and farther in the regions where they are fewer or absent. that is less concentrated. Now this movement will continue until the molecules are uniformly distributed. Okay, now stirring with a spoon or glass rod, it makes the process faster and the diffusion uniform, or you'll get the result faster. But then even if you don't do it, even if you don't aid in the process, it will take place. So what you can do at home is you make two sets. Take two sets of glasses, take two glasses. In one case you stir it and the other glass keep it untouched. Notice the time difference and also notice that whether diffusion has taken place in both the glasses. So this is one activity for you at home, a very simple one that you can do to understand diffusion, and this is what diffusion is about. So today what we have done, we have learned why plants need water and minerals. We have learned why or how roots help in absorption of water. We have learned out of these 5 processes, 2 processes, imbibition and diffusion. In the next video that I'll upload, we'll talk about osmosis and osmotic pressure. Any doubt that you have regarding today's explanation regarding this material, you can ask me in the comment section. I'll try to answer as much as possible. Okay, and do give the text a read. You all have the book, and do try this experiment at home. Thank you everyone.